Hare Krishna, and welcome to this video on the Bhagavad-gita, chapter 1, verse 2. In this video we are focusing on producing a simple English translation and to mention some things that might be problematic or extra interesting in an English rendering. Note that I'm not trying to be poetic in English here, neither in the sense of trying to replicate the verse meter in the English rendering, nor by using any flowery embellished language. In other words, our goal here is a very literal translation that is very simple and straightforward. Note here that we are using the recomposed version of this verse that we developed in an earlier video, in which we have already arranged here the words in a standardized subject-object-verb order. So let's zoom in here now, and we can see the worksheet a little bit better. And we have alright, so we have the first clause then, sanjaya uvaca, and that is pretty straightforward. Sanjaya is, of course, the nominative subject, and we have a perfect indicative active, uvaca, which means he said, and that third person is, of course, sanjaya there. So it's Sanjaya who's speaking and who's saying things. So we will simply write Sanjaya said. We have a colon because now he will tell us what is happening. One thing which is important here in this connection is that in a previous video I was talking about the function of the drstva and the upsangamya, and that they are both gerunds, and that they are therefore both of them are participles, and that they represent something in the temporal dimension that is sequential. So that first someone is having seen something, and then after that is done, then someone is approaching someone, and then after that, then someone is speaking. So I was talking about the sequence and how all these clauses are now arranged in a temporal fashion, but we have to remember here that when I said this, I didn't refer to this, to the intro, because Sanjaya said is, of course, in a temporal dimension. This comes actually last. This is not the first in a temporal one. I mean, first Sanjaya is seeing all these things with his spiritual vision, right? So that's the whole point. And then he's talking about it. So if we were talking about it in a temporal fashion, if we were arranging this worksheet in a temporal fashion only or explicitly, then Sanjaya said should be down here. Just a quick point, and of course another point here is that, and this is a more serious point, is that Sanjaya, of course, is he's narrating, not a poetry, right? It's not about poetry here. It's not about a fictitious story or some bedtime story for kids. This is what sanjaya is doing, what he's seeing with his vision, is what actually happened on Kurukshetra. It's a historical narration of actual events, not some cheap poetry published by some modern literature publisher or something. So this, I think, this is a very important thing, and the reason for the Gita to have become so prominent in the history of religions is, of course, that this is a historical event. It's about God who is standing in his own person on the battlefield of Kurukshetra, and you have this enormous World War V going on, and with millions of men and hundreds of thousands of elephants, and a complete. I mean, it's just an incredible scene that he is seeing here. So that is sort of the mood in which this is offered. The mood is not a bedtime story for kids. The mood is history, and this is why it's so important that we are very attentive to details here, not just in the grammar, but in the whole approach to reading the Gita. Alright, so let's continue where we left off here. We are now at clause 2, and we're talking about drstva. So let's put that in first here. So someone is having seen something, right? Having seen, and of course when we talk about gerunds here, gerunds in general are not declined. They are indeclinable participles. So by the declension we cannot figure out who is seeing, the person who is doing the seeing. We cannot, but that is determined. We have to do that in another way. So, but other participles, like just a normal, let's say a PPP, a past passive participle, it has an added ending which corresponds to the person doing the seeing in the main clause. So that's just a short recap there of gerunds. Now, okay, so having seen, what is it that this person sees? He sees the Pandava army. Why? Because this is accusative up here. So drstva acts as the controller of the object here. And so, having seen the Pandava army, and note here now that I'm still having a hyphen here, and why am I doing that? Well, because I mean, if an English editor saw this, they wouldn't like that probably. They would just remove it immediately, and like the Pandava army. There's two words, so it's not no hyphen needed there. They would say, but I'm keeping this here because I want to be reminded that this is actually a compound in the Sanskrit. So I'm keeping it together, a little more together than a normal editor would do. Alright, so let's see, what else do we have here? We have this word arranged here. And this is problematic for because of what it is signifying. So of course vyudham it's about being arranged. It's about being in a military formation. But it's also about not just being in a military formation, because you could have like a Sunday school event in where the military or the army comes and sort of shows themselves off for the school kids, and just sort of you put themselves up in a particular formation just to demonstrate how it could have been, like if you actually went to war or like that. So the idea here is that vyudham is not signifying just that they are arranged in a military formation, but that the whole point is here that they are actually going to war also. So that it's a very dark kind of adjective in that sense, that it's very bad. So anyway, so the problem is that we to explain this in a very detailed way, we could do it like this. For instance, we could have explained it like that and put it after the compound. So we have a compound here, and then we add the adjective in sort of, or we can remove the parentheses here, but it becomes clumsy, and it's very, so maybe it's better to, I like it better when if we keep the standardized Sanskrit word order and retain the attributive position of the adjective. So we want the, let's just, if we just keep it short and nice, and maybe we could sort of put arrayed there instead. Arrayed there. It's enough explanatory to sort of give the idea. It's not really enough, but in order to be really enough, we have to add so many words that it becomes too much, I think. So let's keep it like this, and for now at least, and then maybe we can do some other change later. And then we have the last word here, to, which is a little bit, it's very short, but it has a couple of different meanings, and it's not entirely easy to get the exact right flavor here. So I will be saving this for part 2, so we can continue at 2 when we come back. So thank you for watching, and Hare Krishna.